Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is a world premiere.
Great morning, great morning, great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right, time for your favorite talk show, The Culture Call, right here with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith on Praise 93.3 FM. It is indeed the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And yes, for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be here talking a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, and most definitely from religion to relationships. And as always, we are here to create a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, sometimes controversial conversations. And guess what? You can call in and chat it up with me as we learn together right here on The Culture Call. First of all, want to send a pleasant good morning and a shout out to all of you who are our new listeners. Absolutely. Welcome to the CC family. And for the next 2 hours, I'm telling you, we're going to have a blast. We're going to have a time talking about issues that are happening not only in the black community, but all over the state, the country, and the world. And so I am glad that you are here taking this journey with us this morning from wherever you're from. Thank you for being a part of the Culture Call family. Number two, we want to give a special shout out to all of our recurring listeners, our consistent and committed listeners. I am grateful for you. You make the Culture Call exactly what it is, the number one talk show, and I am grateful for that. For all of you, when you see me in the street or we come and connect at church or whatever it is, you look at me and say, hey, I listen to you all the time. You're doing a great job. Keep telling us the things that we don't know and keep stretching us. And yes, I am so appreciative of that. Please know from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you. And then finally, I want to give a big shout out to always the inimitable Brother Jay, who comes in anointed. He comes in oily every morning at 5 a.m. And hey, guess what? Plays the best in great gospel music, inspiring us and giving us wisdom and insight. And I'm telling you, every morning he leaves this baton hot for me. Absolutely. He leaves it in a place to where all I got to do is run on and see what the end going to be. It's blazing. Absolutely. But guess what? We couldn't do it without Brother Jay, so shout out to him. Listen, do me a favor, everybody. Do me a favor. Grab your phone. I know it's in your hand. It's in proximity to where you are. Go ahead and grab your phone and go to your app store. Every phone, whether it's an Apple or an Android device, has an app store. And there, if you search out Praise 93.3 FM, you're going to find an app. That's right, a free 99 app. What does that mean? It doesn't cost you a thing. I need you to go ahead and download that on your device or your phone. Guess what? I'm telling you, you can listen to me wherever you are. That's right, while you're on the go, in places even where you probably can't get the station. Guess what? You can listen to me on that app. Listen, and we're going to have a great time. So do that for me. And no matter if you're Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, Houston, Texas, and right here in the beautiful city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery, Huntsville, Reform, Ebola, Utah, wherever you are, I am telling you, you can hear us no matter where you are. We're just going to take a great journey together, right? Good deal. Listen, so somebody asked me, how can we send announcements to you all? And I try to say it every morning several times. I'll do it again this morning. Write this email down, culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. And you can give me an opportunity to be your public service announcer. That's right, for free. You got to pay for PR PR and marketing, guess what? If you send it to me, you get it right here for free. And I'm going to let lottie-dottie everybody know to come to your, whatever your church, your organization is doing, your fraternity, your sorority, whether you're an artist having a concert or a preacher starting a revival. That's right. No matter what you're doing, we want faces in the place. That's right. To fill up the space, to let you know that what you're doing is important to our community. You know why? Because we indeed do it better when we do it together. Absolutely. And do me a favor, go ahead to my Facebook page. That's right, The Culture Call. That's it, The Culture Call, and like that page, because you know what? You can send me a DM, you can send me a direct message of your announcement or what it is, and guess what? I'll read it on the air. Yes, I'll do that. That's right. Maybe email is not fast enough for you, but guess what? You can send it to me via our Facebook page. That's right, The Culture Call, and send it to me, send the flyer to me, and I will definitely announce it. Also, write down the golden number, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800, and call in. That's right, and let's chat it up together. Let me know what I'm doing, how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a subject matter you want me to talk about, or I talked about it and you want to add a point or two. Hey, you can do that while you're calling me, or you can do that on the chat feature of the app. Absolutely. They have a chat feature, and I read it throughout the break. Even while I'm on the air, I read it because I don't want to miss anybody's comment, right? I want you to know that what you think is important to the Culture Call. I simply just want to hear from you. That's what I want to do. Absolutely. Listen, so do me a favor, sit back and relax. Grab you some coffee. You know how we do it, Maxwell House or Starbucks. Maybe you don't like coffee. Get you some herbal tea. If you're trying to calm down, chamomile. And if you're trying to just get a caffeine kick, go ahead and get you some green tea. And most definitely, as always, you can get you some alkaline water. Any kind of water, but definitely alkaline water. And that helps detox your body. Get that stuff out, whatever it is, so we can get those cells working and get that body alert so we can do what we got to do for another day. And let's get into the culture. Let me tell y'all something. Let me breathe for just a minute, because all morning I've been reading, looking at the news, reading social media sites, we got to talk about some things. I've got a whole lot to talk about. I definitely want to, mention sometime today. I sit on the board of the Child Abuse Prevention Services, and we're getting ready for our ball. And we're going to talk a little bit about child abuse and things of that nature, and how we can really do our best for our children, and that are perhaps inflicted with pain, or how we can just rescue them and get them to start a new life, get them therapy and all those kinds of things so that they can get better. But I'm going to talk about that, right? And we definitely have to talk about, all of these things going on with IVF. And I'm going to tell you why that's important to the Black community. IVF, in vitro fertilization. That just simply means that it's a scientific, technological way where the egg and the sperm meet in a lab, right? And because of some kind of natural obstacle or natural, thing that whereby they can't get pregnant naturally, right? And I'm trying to figure out a nice way to say that while I'm on the air. But yeah, they cannot engage in any kind of sexual activity that will produce a baby. And so what they've discovered and how to do it is take embryos out and allow those embryos to get fertilized and implant them back into the uterus of the mother, right? And so that's a whole lot going on in our country. That's very important, especially for those of our generation who are trying to have children but cannot do it the traditional, conventional way. Everybody doesn't get pregnant because they make love or they go. Sometimes that's just not how it works. But they've discovered a way to do through IVF, have an opportunity to have children. And there seems to be something really big going on in this country, beginning in Alabama, about restricting IVF. That would mean that women are couples that want to get pregnant and cannot do it the conventional way, cannot do it anymore because they're trying to restrict it. And of course, the Republicans are in a tremendous dichotomy because with their mouths, they say they're for it. But when it comes up to provide a bill or the politics around it. They are conservative. They are MAGA. They are Donald Trumpian, right? And so even though their mouths are saying one thing, their actions are saying another, and perhaps preventing many children. Now, on the other hand, on one hand, they say they are pro-life. That's what they say, right? And then on the other hand, they want to restrict life from coming into the world by any means necessary. There is no one that is hurt, nothing that is hurt. In their mind, there's a theological and a religious kind of context of which they apply that the embryos are people. The embryos are people, and quite frankly, there is an argument to be had for that with regards to that. I don't think that it's in the politics. I'm that kind of person that although I am a believer, I am a Christian, and I know many of you are as well, that I don't think that because I believe a certain way and have a certain religious perspective, that it is my job, especially if I am in the political realm or I work in the public space. It is not my job, neither is it my assignment to restrict the possibilities of others doing what they need to do, to restrict and curtail the liberties of other people simply because of what I believe. And of course, there are many people that mix their religion with politics. And unfortunately, we have this whole idea of what we get. Now, listen to me. I don't trust that mixture of politics and religion, because that is the very self-same thing that gave us slavery by the Bible. That they misquoted, misread, misinterpreted the scriptures to say, they conjured up a whole, and man, there's a history to that culture call. My goodness. There is such a history to the ignorance of those who just read the Bible surfacely, but they come up with some kind of ubiquitous doctrine or dogma, really is what it is, and try to inflict that upon all people, upon everyone. And one of the greatest lies that they told was, the superiority of one race over the other as supported by God. And that in and of itself, my friend, is not the Bible. It is not true. Not at all. Not at all. And so this is what we're facing. This is what we're facing today, where, they're so busy running off of, everything has been created in the image of God, the Imago Dei, which was began in the Garden of Eden. It's hard to really adjudicate embryonic science with the Garden of Eden, because both man and woman came here as adults. They didn't come as children. So we know the supernatural process that God used, right? Number one, took the dust from the earth, formed it into a body, breathed into man, man became a living soul, right? That has nothing to do with embryonic science. That has nothing to do with reproductive science. Not one. You can't find it. You can't even stretch it in that rate. That was a sovereign, divine act of God, right? And there, when he says, let us make man in our own image and our own likeness, right? That was the beginning of the Imago Dei. Imago Dei, Imago, image, Dei, God, the image of God in the earth, right? That we don't see birth until after the fall. We don't see birth as we know it from a natural perspective until after the fall in terms of biblical language, right? All right. And then again, woman is even more supernatural, that God put the man to sleep and pulled out a rib out of him and formed a woman and woke the man up and said, hey, and the man said, this is my flesh, a bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Flesh, I shall call her woman. Right. And the both of them were naked and not ashamed, and two became one. Right. And so when we intimate from the text, from the scriptures, we come to find out that the Bible does not mention anything about embryonic science. So the best that we would have dealing with that was when God was speaking to Jeremiah. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and ordained you to be a prophet to XYZ, right? And there is an argument there. There is an argument to be had there, because he's talking to Jeremiah again as an adult. That's number one. Number two, David says in Psalms, the Lord who formed me in secret. Who formed me in secret. And many people take that from the biological context, that in the mother's womb, God formed me in secret. But if you understood the history of David's life and how David came to be even as a child, you will understand that David's birth through Jesse, the reason why David was in the field, some historians, theologians say, is because Jesse was having a side affair with another woman. And it was thought that this other woman had this outside child. So this is why David was treated like that. Right. Okay. Now we're not going to talk about that today. There's a whole lot of the text. Right. It is said that David's mother that told Jesse, no, this is your boy for real. Right. Because, again, he was not even regarded among the sons when Samuel came. Right. There's evidence to that. Some, not circumstantial. It's definitely not 100% conclusive, but it is worth noting that when Samuel asked for David to bring for Jesse to bring his sons in, he doesn't include David because he doesn't think David is a son of that nature. And Jesse said, because the oil would not come out, Jesse said, you got to have another son, and we cannot continue this celebration because we're getting ready to have a celebration, but we cannot come until he arrives. And that's when he sent and got Jesse, and that's when the anointing poured out. And y'all know the story, the Bible story, right? So when you understand the history of it all, you will begin to say, okay, maybe a lot of the things that have been taught weren't really studied. And I get it. As I told you all the time, the danger of Sunday morning is when you're sitting under somebody who has a lot of authority over your spirit, soul, and sometimes even your body, and they're not educated. They haven't gone anywhere. And so to learn the history, to learn the theology, right? And it's not like we can tell you everything. Those of us who have been to seminary, those of us who have particular degrees in that area, our objective is not to tell you. You will find that those who have been educated are less likely to tell you what God is and what God does and the exclusivity of God, the sovereignty of God, because we've learned so much about him and how God moves. And if you don't get a learning, you will think God is contradictory. And if your mindset is God never fails, God is never to be challenged, God is never to be is immutable, he's infallible, and you believe all of that, not to say that it's not true, no, but you don't know it's true. You know it's true, not even by faith, because faith is one of those things that you have to really say, God, I'm trusting you even as I read your word. But the whole objective is we're sitting a lot of times in spaces and in places where people that really don't know that. They're preaching out of burning. They're preaching and answering the call, but they've not studied. Now, before you get upset, don't turn me off, because I'm still saved. I'm yet sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, all of that. That with a mighty burning fire. My roots are Pentecostal, right? When they used to call them sanctified. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with what we believe. I have an issue with people who will not study. That's what the text says. Study to show themselves approved, right? A workman that need not be ashamed, what? Rightly dividing the word of truth. And we have a lot of that going on. People are preaching and teaching and saying things that are not rightly dividing the word of truth. And you can use this, the word can be a tool or it can be a weapon against the enemy, as when Jesus used it against Satan during his temptation. For it is written, a weapon, or a weapon against people, right? Where you think that God made white people better or black people better than everybody else. And you get into this whole struggle when you think God has ordained and set forth your particular bigotry and your particular mindset, and you attempt to control people, right? That, yeah, there were slaves in the Bible, and you're absolutely correct. There were slaves in the Bible, but not the kind of slavery that was begun in Portugal, and then it moves to the West Indies, and then to this new world, as they called it. Chattel slavery is something different. America is something different than all of the other slavery, biblical or non-biblical. Yes. But black folks were enslaved. White people were enslaved. Yes. But chattel slavery that dealt with only black people is something totally different, right? That all the other slaves, they were slaves because they were prisoners of war, one, or two, they were in debt. Let me try it again. They were slaved or enslaved, and then they were called indentured servants, so they could literally work themselves out of slavery once they paid off their debt, right? Or once they say we got a truce or treaty, and part of this treaty is that you're going to let the prisoners of war go, right? But chattel slavery, back it up. The indentured servant POW kind of situation, prisoner of war kind of situation, never diminished the humanity and the worth. In other words, they may have to have paid it off, but it never diminished their worth. To call them demonic, ignorant, and all that. Those were things that were assigned to black people and the enslaved in this country. That's what makes it different, right? But they utilized the biblical text to support this whole idea that whites were better. Y'all know the history because we talk about it all the time. That's why they used it. They used the Bible to support it. They used any word that was slave in the Bible to support their chattel slavery. Jefferson Davis, all of these people, they utilized all of that to make it seem like, wait a minute, black people are white people are better than black people. Absolutely. Right? And they had a white supremacist agenda that they were using. And here it is. And then they created this thing. Watch this. The slave Bible. They created this thing called the slave Bible. And all of the books of the Bible were not put in anything that talked about freedom, liberty, manumission. Anything that was in that. Manumission means, freedom from slavery, right? Anything that they removed Exodus out of the Bible. Why? Because it is the story that God is a liberator that from oppressive regimes, that God is a liberator. They took out the text where who the Son set free is free indeed, right? And so one of the things that I had the opportunity to do was see an actual slave Bible, and Exodus is not in there. Those things, because their fear was that the slave might read it and see what God did, and it may upend our argument. It may upend our argument of supremacy, of privilege, right? Of how we have distortedly told this narrative, right? It will upend this whole this whole thing that we think that we're better than everybody else. And I say that now because there is something that is because of the Great Compromise. And I think there wasn't even a compromise. They didn't see it. The Great Compromise is that they would bring the states of secession, those who came, the states of the South, back into the Union, right? And all of that instead of, because the issue of the Civil War was about slavery, but instead of giving the slaves reparations, they gave them to the slave owners. They gave the money, they gave the land, they took it from the slave. The slave had it, but they took it from the slave and gave it back to the slave owners, right? And throughout history, we've had an issue of this mixture of the civil, those who Civil War states, or the states that seceded, North Carolina, South Carolina, all of the southern states that seceded, all the way to Texas, right? They've been trying to. The South shall rise again. The South shall do this, right? And if you look at it, y'all, and this is not to cast aspersions because I've been a Southern boy all of my life. But when you look at the educational and the academic context, those states, Southern states, are at the bottom. At the bottom. We make up all of the states at the bottom of the educational and academic achievement. We are at the bottom, right? And so that's why there's a whole lot of fighting, even right now. One of my talking points today on the last day of Black History Month is talking about Mississippi. and how there is jeopardy to the HBCUs in Mississippi, Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley State, and Jackson State. Now, they say, well, it's affecting other places too, but when you look at the bill itself, and I did, when you look at the bill itself, it's a sneaky suspicion. Because see, remember, here's the track. Y'all ready? Don't miss the culture call. Do not miss this. First, they come after affirmative action, right? Because they really never agreed with the Civil Rights Act, the Civil Rights Bill that Lyndon Johnson put in place. They never agreed with it, right? And I'm talking about from the 60s. And then we get here, and so they do affirmative action. They take affirmative action out, right? Second, they attack the voting rights. Well, the voting rights first and then affirmative action, right? And then they go after this whole idea of critical race theory, right? And taking out all the African-American histories in school, right? You got to track it, y'all. Don't miss it. Then they get out. So now, even on a higher education level, you got to get permission to talk about African-American history. Nobody else's history, right? Because their history is history. Our history is black history, right? So it's different. Number 4, right? Then they take out diversity, equity, inclusion, right? Because we want to make sure that nobody is getting in unfairly. But historically, who has gotten in unfairly to any place? Right. They didn't let, the one that they thought was Sambo into Harvard and Princeton. No, we had to be better and on their level. But it's, you see, over the years, over the decades, over the generations, it has been this whole idea. Well, since you can't really teach about black history and they're banning books and all of that, right, then we don't need any more HBCUs because everything they're taking out is a reflective reminder of the kind of people that they have been over history, not us. Let me say that again, because some of y'all don't believe what I'm trying to tell you. That's why I'm walking it slow for y'all. The issue is never about what we have been. It's about how they have appeared. So they want to take out the books with their grandparents, their great-grandparents, at lynchings and having segregation. They want to change the entire history. They don't want you to know that in Alabama, in Florida, in Mississippi, in South Carolina. They don't want you. The southern states are doing it again. That whole idea of January 6th, that was the beginning, or not even the beginning, that was the midpoint, right? So you see that this whole thing, and you got to begin to ask why. You have to begin to stop and ask why. I know what the text says. I know what Revelation says. I know what the Bible says. I know, yes, we know all of that. But you got to understand it's happening in real time. And so our community, we have to begin to fortify ourselves and begin to have a different level of conversation. I could care less who's selling 1 million copies, a million records. I could care less about these other situations that are going on. We are under an existential situation whereby if we are not careful, they're going to roll the clock back to the 1950s and 60s. And that's their definition of what? Making America great again. And we've got to begin to ask ourselves as the community, when has it ever been really truly great for us? We've had to fight for everything that we've had. Like Sophia in The Color Purple, all my life I had to fight. And so here it is, my children and even perhaps my grandchildren have to fight, especially with this. And we're going to talk about this, y'all, especially with this, with the Supreme Court trying to hear this issue about presidential immunity. Man, we're going to we got to deep dive into that before we leave Black History Month. We got to do that. Listen, call your neighbor, grab a friend, tell everybody, come on in and listen to the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM. Keep it right here. There's more to come. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, and we are having an amazing day and an awesome conversation. I think it's important, especially for the black community. Wake up and pay attention. Don't go to sleep, my brothers, my sisters. This is the time that we've got to stir up our whole house, our whole community, because certain things are happening right in our face, right underneath our noses. And if we are not paying attention, we are definitely going to be late lasting loss. Every time America has a radical transition, we always come up as black people with the short end of the stick. So we cannot afford some of the arguments that we are trying and attempting to make, trying to sound intelligent, trying to sound like we are aware that, this is not the time. You know, when you begin to educate people, they're like, well, you're trying to scare us for doing this, scare us doing that. Yeah, but that was the same thing you said back in 2016 about Hillary Clinton. And then Hillary Clinton didn't get in. And then you see what the result of a Trump presidency was, right? You got three, very rarely does a president ever appoint 3 Supreme Court justices in their term. He got three. Y'all don't hear me. He got 3, right? He got 3 Supreme Court appointments. And according to their caveat, according to their CV, their resume, their bio, they weren't even the cream of the crop. No, he got those who perhaps would always side with him on the highest court of the land. Now, okay, let's do a civics lesson, right? You have the legislative branch, which is the Congress, which is formulated of Congress people and Senate, right? House of Representatives and Senate. You have the executive, which is the president and his cabinet, yeah. And then you have the judicial, which is, of course, the Supreme Court. And they begin to interpret the laws with regards to, what the Constitution says, right? And so they're the ones that, quote unquote, tells you what the law really is saying. Because, of course, none of us know, right? Right. We don't know a crime when we see a crime. We don't know the law when we see a law. We don't see, none of that. So they exist to do that. They exist supposed to separate from the politics. That was the origin or the intentional thought of the Supreme Court. But you have to understand that whenever a president appoints them, that president being affiliated with regards to a party, they might have the propensity, not saying that they will, that to not just put the most qualified judge up there, regardless of left or right, conservative or liberal, right? But if we're not careful, they will put people who are reflective of their agenda and their political ideology. And so we find ourselves in a tremendous snafu. Now, I know you're saying, Bishop L, how in the world, what does that have to do with us? What do you mean? They overturned constitutional statutes, right? They set rules. They were the one that did Brown versus the Board of Education. That was them. That's the Supreme Court, right? They're the one that gutted with Chief Justice Roberts now, who gutted the Voting Rights Act. That same Voting Rights Act that you celebrate in Selma voting, every year. That was the man that gutted it. Right, exactly. They're saying that Southern states no longer needed to be adjudicated like they were because we were so far away from the Civil War. What? Every year they have a celebration for Robert E. Lee, a Confederate general. Every year, that you still got people waving Confederate flags all over the South. But his notion was, and those conservative justices, well, you can't penalize them. And what do? As soon as he changes the law, they begin to attack voting rights. They begin to do that on a state level, showing that his argument was a farce, showing it that, his argument was like, cover. We finally got, so they gutted that. That's not talking about Roe versus Wade, and the Dobbs decision. Let's not even talk about that. They just did that. They overturned affirmative action that got minorities, blacks in particular, into certain spaces and to certain places. Who is the author of quotas in this country? If it's not the whiteness, right? The institution, not people, but the institution, right? And so who did that protect? That when you say, well, my son didn't get into Princeton and XYZ because a black person got there. Well, was the black person qualified? And what was the existential reasonings for the affirmative action to take place in the first place? What was going on in the country? And who was the antagonist? And who was denying people proper agency and worth and value and place in society? And who looked at one race as toward another as second-class citizenry and not even second class, right? Who took 2/3 out of our bloodline in terms of being, all of that? We're not human. Who did that? We didn't do it to ourselves. So that's why these laws exist. But then you get this court, this particular court, that overturned all of those laws that protected the emergence of civilization and socialization in this young country, young democracy, right? That America is perhaps one of the youngest countries on the face of the planet, right? And so Culture Call, what that Supreme Court did was gut all of that and say, no, they don't need that. No, they don't need that. No, they don't need that. Now now, first of all, the attorney, the special counsel, watch this now, watch this, pay attention. The special counsel said, hey, let's take this Trump's immunity straight to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court drugged their feet and said, no, give it to the D.C. District Court of Appeals. Y'all ready? Good. Went to the District Court of Appeals, and they unanimously said that there is nobody above the law, that whether they are the president or the pope, that if they commit a crime, they are not immune simply because they hold a certain office. That if they shoot somebody, kill somebody, and they know it, then that person does not have immunity, right? And that they did it. They did it unanimously. And they wrote one opinion. There was no dissent, right? I'm trying to think of the legal term. Per curiam. There it is. The entire court said it, right? Good. Then it gets appealed to the Supreme Court, and they drag their feet because they're trying to burn down the clock, because they know that if they take it up, there is no way that they can subvert that law. What they're hoping by taking it up is slowing the clock down so that an individual who appointed them cannot be tried and prosecuted before the election. Leaving it up, watch this, leaving it up to who? The people to not vote for them. See, the case doesn't go away because there's no way they can say, watch this, there is no way they can say that this person has immunity. It goes against the Constitution. It goes against every moral and legal right that's in this country. So they can't, but they took the case, which most people thought they would not, because, hey, the D.C. case was shut. And no, they took it to slow it down. Delay is the denier of justice. Whenever you attempt to slow down adjudication and justice, all you got to do is delay it. So that's the reason why they did it. There is no jurisprudence. There is no legal argument that they can have to overturn what the D.C. Court of Appeals did. But they're going to listen to it on April 22nd. Now, we've seen this court move so fast, so very fast on other things. They move with rapid motion on other things. When Colorado was trying to say that he was off, the 45 was off the ballot, guess what? The Supreme Court jumped in and started having this argument. They put it on stage so they can do what they want to do quickly. So they put it in a place where they know that the case would not be able to be tried. Because if you're listening to it April 22nd, watch the pace of that case. It's an open and shut case, but watch how slow the Supreme Court moves it. You want me to tell you whose fault that is? Yeah, that was the people who tried to gaslight us and tried to make it seem like Hillary was the same as Trump. A career educated politician who understood the nuances of government and world, because she was the Secretary of State, was the exact same for a reality TV star, a failed businessman. They're the same. In their minds, they're the same. And they convinced us. But they convinced me. And I hope they didn't convince you. But yeah, absolutely. No, he was their last chance in a generation. He was their last chance in a generation to reinforce this whole institution of what? Whiteness. The first thing he says he's going to do, I'm going to deport every illegal. I'm going to establish Christianity as the, how? How do you do that? That was never the notion of any other president. You know why? Who does he admire more than his own wife, more than his own father? Vladimir Putin. He's a dictator. He loves dictators. In China, in North Korea, he loves them. So his thing is, if I get back in, already they've released the 2025 points already. That puts him almost in a place where if we're not careful, America won't see another election. They want a dictator because the dictator agrees with them. If the dictator was Barack Obama or another African-American man, you can bet your bottom dollar they would, number one, the Supreme Court would have never taken the case. Right? And, well, now Bishop L. Clarence Thomas, he's a black man on the Supreme Court. And that means what? Because he's been showing us since that time. See, Clarence Thomas's being on the Supreme Court was the GOP's Republican replacement for Thurgood Marshall. Right? Because, of course, yeah. When, of course, Thurgood Marshall's like, that's who y'all going to replace me with? That's what y'all going to do? Thurgood Marshall was against that, right? So, yeah. So he has enjoyed, his alignment and proximity with that institution for years. And he owes that institution because the only way that he got to that place is because the institution overlooked the fact that he committed sexual assault on Anita Hill. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm a historian buff. I'm a history buff. So, yeah, I can rattle this stuff off. I'm a reader and I'm a thinker. And I want to bring that. See, here's what I'm telling you. There is a systematic thing that we cannot. Here it is. Let's go to education. Education, that they're defunding public schools, but they're trying to create vouchers for private schools because they want to make these schools private what? Christian schools. And before you get to shouting and dancing and speaking in tongues and quickening, not yet. Not yet. Because you got to remember, the God above the boat is different than the God underneath the boat. As a matter of fact, the God of those who were underneath the boat in shackles and in chains, that God predates the folks that was on top of the boat pioneering and navigating the transatlantic slave trade. So don't get happy because somebody says Christian. Don't do that. No. Because if the Christianity was the same, then he would have never been president. According to how they look at it, how they judge everybody else, why does he get a pass? Right? And so most of us can't afford. Those vouchers are for what? Right. What are those vouchers that they're trying to give? Who are they for? If no affirmative action there, well, they're not going to see that your child, my child, I don't have a child that age, my grandchildren will be able to get that because they no more affirmative action. So who enforces that? And we are stuck in the public schools of which they've taken all the money out of. Right? Come on. Think about it. It's happening right in our faces. And while we're worrying about other scandals and, while we're worrying about things, you better pay attention. You better pay attention. Pay attention. It is all over. And the issue is they're thinking that we are not thinking. That's what their whole thing is, that we ain't thinking a little bit. These folks ain't thinking not one bit. They got their eyes on who's charting over here, or what song is this, or what dance is this. Yeah, that's what they got. But watch this. There's probably no more celebrated artist in the country like Beyonce. I know some of y'all religious folks don't listen to Beyonce, but let me bring it up to you. So Beyonce says, hey, I can sing anything. I'm going to make me a country album. So Beyonce makes these fire songs, a country album. 16 Carriages and Texas Hold'em, right? And in Oklahoma, the radio station, people were calling in for them to play Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. And they said literally, oh, we don't play Beyonce. We don't do that. We do this for people who sing country, truly sing country. right? That's not what they were saying. Can y'all hear that in the code? That wasn't what they were saying. And the people bombarded it that they had no choice but to play it. And that's what I'm saying, that there's got to be a reaction. There must be a calculated response to what we see happen in this country, black folks. To my community, we cannot just be focusing on this. You're mad because of what's going on in Gaza. I get that, because there's some issues that I have with the Biden administration with regards to Gaza. I understand that. I ain't mad at that at all. They need to be called into that, right? Called into question, right? I don't have a problem with that. But there's a potential that the United States could become Gaza. You see, you can't keep your eye take your eye off the ball. You got to keep it on what's happening. Keep it on what's happening, because November will come and go, and you'll be like, how in the world did we get this place? How did this happen? Now, here's the deal. Let me tell you how I know they're not going to give Donald Trump immunity, right? Because the whole issue was what happened in January 6th. He was no more president in November. He was no longer the president in November, right? January 6th was them about certifying Joe Biden's election, right? So they overturned it on January 6th. He's saying, I was still the president on January 6th. You see what I'm saying? And so my thing, could not Biden do the same thing he just did? Could not Biden? He could, if there's no penalty. You see, that's why it is a farce that the Supreme Court would even take this up, because they're not going to do that for Biden, because they got to tread lightly, because we could inadvertently give Biden the same kind of immunity that we're trying to delay and say that we're trying to give Trump. They're not going to do it. They're not. They know he's guilty, but they're trying to slow down the clock, because per adventure, if he becomes president, what's happened? All of this goes away. He appoints his own attorney general, and all of this goes away. All of this goes away. Keep your eyes on the ball. Family, keep your eyes on the ball. This is important. You want to know what to pray about in your prayer meeting? Yeah. Lord, give us the wisdom and the insight and the energy and the passion to do what is right, even in difficult situations, especially in this case. Absolutely. We cannot sit on the sidelines any longer. Listen, this is the Culture Call. Hit me up on the chat. Call me up, 205-752-4800. Yeah, the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Keep it right here. We got much, much more to come. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back. That's right. We are back right here on the Culture Call. It's the top of the hour. 11 a.m. and some change. And I'm telling you, we've been having a wonderful day and a wonderful conversation. Welcome to those of you who are joining us in our second hour. Yeah, we've been having a time, y'all. So go ahead, find your seatbelt if you're in your car, or, grab hold of something, get you a Coke or something. Normally I don't say soda, but yeah, for this conversation, you might want to get something that's going to tingle your throat a little bit, because I'm telling you, we're having a conversation about what's really going on in this country and what threat it is, not only to America, but also to the black community. And I think it is very important for those of you, a lot of times we've historically hid behind our faith, some people, not all, right? Hid behind faith that God gonna fix it. God knows what's going on, all that. And see, as a preacher, I understand all of that. But the text says faith without works is dead, right? That Jesus himself said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what belongs to God. So yes, there is a spiritual aspect, rendering unto God. Yes, we pray. Yes, we seek the Lord's wisdom and insight and knowledge. We seek those particulars, divine downloads to give us and direct our paths, in times of tension, right? But what about rendering unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar? That means that we have an obligation to participate in the civic discussion, in the civic discourse. We have an obligation, the same obligation that you have to render unto God what is his, you have an obligation to take care of your community. You have an obligation to go to the PTA meeting and go to community formation meetings. You have an obligation to do that, to understand who the mayor is, to understand who the police chief is, your senator, your congressman. You have an obligation, yes, to vote for the president, right? You have an obligation to hold those things accountable. You have an obligation to not just exercise your voice in praise, but also exercise your voice in principle, right? And being a part of common humanity, and I don't think I've talked about this in a while, but being a part of common humanity is not just what is best for me. When Paul teaches in Philippians, right? When Jesus begins to teach about how we ought to look at for each other and go out into all the world, right? All those things, that is the notion that my mind shouldn't just be about us four and no more. It should not be a restrictive thing that, hey, I don't care about what's happening with nobody else. I'm just going to pay attention to my house. And to some extent, that's different than what I'm talking about is not being a busybody. That's not what I'm talking about. Being in everybody's business and gossiping. I'm saying that you need to be aware that one decision could affect your entire neighborhood. It's not going to leave your house out. It's not going to leave your family out when the decisions come down, right? And so we must be corporately and community aware and activated to be able to do what we need to do on the daily. Yeah, not just to protect the Smith family, but there's some Johnsons and some Wilsons, right? There's some Williams that's across the street that's going to be affected as well. And if I just sat there, well, Jesus going to fix it. Jesus going to like, yeah, I'm going to fix it because I'm in you. Christ in you, the hope of glory. That's what Colossians says, right? And so there, I'm telling you, and I'm alerting you even now to begin to understand that this is a time where you cannot just sit by and watch. And, I've had people, black folks that say, well, they tore it up, let them fix it. We just going to sit back. Bro, sis, here, listen to the argument. This ain't our fight. This their fight. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Revolutionary War was not our fight. And quite frankly, the Civil War was not our fight. It wasn't. But, all these other wars are not. But we got into it because we understood that the fallout, thanks be to God, that some people understood that the fallout was going to affect us adversely if we plan to continue to live in this country. Now, I know that there are African countries that are offering dual citizenship, but are you getting ready to move your family from your address now and move to Africa so you ain't got to deal with what's happening in America? The answer to that is an expeditious no, a concrete no, a quick, fast, and solid, a committed nay, right? Exactly. And so because of that, I've got to begin to get involved and let our voices be heard and pay attention. And the reason why I say let our voices be heard, because silence doesn't work. Not in a situation like this. You've got that is how, when your voices are heard, is how you begin to get attention from those who want to maintain the status quo that would adversely affect you, right? I'm going to say this so that we can get this on the air. Hear me. This is a time of urgency. I need all my intercessors praying. Yes. I need all my prophets prophesying more than just cars and houses and cash. Yeah. To stand upon our watch and begin to say, hey, here's the deal. Here's what's happening in our community. Here's what's happening in our schools and our families. Here's what's going on, right? And not a lot of people call faith, what they do is faith. No, what you're doing is wishing. Wishing is going to be different. Maya Angelou, late Dr. Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I need the organist warm up right there on the E flat, right? I'll start off an E flat and we're going up to about A flat because I'm going to walk it up. Hear me. When folks show you who they are, believe them. It's not your job to mythically or fantastically wish that they were somebody else. That's not your job. Your job is to believe that they can become somebody different, but to accept them for exactly who they are. And if they show up crooked, if they show up deceitful, if they show up manipulative, the text says, learn to call a thing a thing. Let's try it again. Call a thing a thing. Call it what it is. And so, yeah, a lot of times we're trying to assuage sometimes our own consciences, because we don't ever want to look at anybody bad, or they're evil, or they're, all of this. But when they're showing you that, here's another piece of the puzzle. Here it is. That all of the cases that have been tried to be slowed down are criminal cases. That means jail time cases. That means locked up behind bars cases. That means limited access and privilege cases, right? The cases that were allowed to go forward are civil cases, and that is to the tune of $454 million of penalties. That's just one case. Then you got this $83.3 million. You got to pay that for sexual assault and rape. You got to pay that. And there are more money cases that are coming down on the civil side. See, they ain't trying to stop that. They tried to stop it yesterday by offering the judge $100 million. The judge like, absolutely not. No, not for the years. But see, this criminal case is something totally different. Right. And here's the deal. If you do not think that those conservative six on the Supreme Court are doing this to slow this down, to give Trump some victory, because they've been watching him lose in court. If you don't think that is a part of what they have been doing, or what they are doing now, please wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up and smell the coffee. And what I'm saying to you is, as a community, even as we look to Selma, and we look to Birmingham, and we look to all of the other places in Alabama that have egregious things. Wait a minute, Bishop, why are you always talking about 60s and 50s? No, this stuff is happening in 2024 now. The lynchings are still happening now. They are. Last week, they found another man. They found a man, which is at Alabama, Georgia. They found him, a black man, lynched. Let me say this to you. Black people don't lynch themselves. Let's try it again. Because maybe y'all didn't hear me. I said black people do not lynch themselves. Somebody got to be doing it. Huh? Somebody has to be doing it. And they know this, but they're hoping that you are not, I am not paying attention. And see, guess what? I am paying attention. And some people say, well, he's just nerdy, and no. This is the way my parents raised me, to be aware. My grandparents raised me to sit, and you were too, sit in front of that news and pay attention. You couldn't say nothing. All the games had to be put up, watching the news, so you can find out what's going on in the world beyond you, because a lot of times things happen and we are late, last, and lost because we are not paying attention. Well, guess what, Culture Call? Today, I am not giving anybody a slide by. Let me say that again. I am not giving anybody a slide by. Today, we've got to pay attention. We've got to pay attention. The Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. And as we watch the scriptures unfold, we don't just sit there. Our job is not just to sit there and watch them unfold. Our job is to give articulation to our people, right? Our job is to make sure, yes, we do have, to use an allegory or a Bible example as an allegory. We do need to make sure that our blood, our doorposts and our lintels are covered with blood. Yes, we do. We do need to do, yeah. But from an allegorical context, we do need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves in the marketplace, protecting ourselves in community, protecting ourselves from people who may have an averted look at who we are. Our families are not as valuable as theirs, and we need to have an appropriate answer for that. Right? Absolutely. You know, as I said earlier today, that I sit on the board of two major things that happen in the Black community. The West Alabama sickle cell board. I sit on that. Yeah, sickle cell anemia. I sit on that, and I also sit on the board for child abuse prevention services. Right, and both of them are centrally significant for our Black community. Right, and one of the things that's moving really slow is that those programs that literally support our worth value agency, our protection, receive the least amount of funding, receive the least amount of notoriety, of attention, right? Until something happens. Until something happens. You know, right now in our community as well, that there are women, our women are not bringing their babies to term, and there's a high infant mortality rate. And not only that, the mothers are dying at high rates as well, attempting to give birth. Why? Because there is a medical system that are not paying attention to the needs of Black and brown women. You got to pay attention to that. That's your child, your grandchild. That's our future right there. That they're saying, okay, you know, yeah, You know, I had a member to say to me that the doctors found lumps in her mother's breast. You know, they found not a lump, lumps in her mother's breast. Today, it is February. That was last Sunday, in February. But they wanted to wait till June to see her. I said, well, no, July. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, no, absolutely not. Nope. I said, no, you go back to them. Because if it's nothing, then take it out, because it's benign. Take that lump out. But what if what if it's something? What if it's metastasizing? What if we catch it early, we can stop it, you know, with some treatment or surgery? You're going to wait till the summer months to check it out? What? No, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. And I looked at her, I said, no, I need you to be proactive, because they are not. They are not. They are not. We cannot just think that there's a cavalry or somebody that's going to come, a Superman or the Avengers or somebody that's going to come do it for us. No. We are the leaders that we are looking for. That's a new book by Dr. Eddie S. Glaude, that we are the leaders that we are looking for. We are. And we've got to be proactive when we see this stuff going on. Every Jackson State alumnus, everyone that graduated from Mississippi Valley State, everyone that's graduated from Alcorn, you don't need to be sitting by and wait until they pass. You need to be on your phone. You need to be on the phone of your senator and your congressman and say, hey, wait a minute, hold on. It seems to me that there is a target for certain schools, HBCUs in particular. What is that all about? What is that all about? And see, they can make certain moves that the blackest state, the state that has the highest population of Black people, is Mississippi. It's Mississippi, right? And here's the reality of that. The reality is, okay, well, why is this targeting us? Why is the SEMA? Who would even draft a bill because of that? Who? You know, who would do that? And that is because of an attitude that not only of the institution, right? That's not only the attitude of the institution. That's an attitude of sometimes Black people saying, well, why? What? It doesn't matter if I vote. My vote don't matter. Man, it's all collusion. Even if it is, you should vote for Medgar Evers. You should vote for Myrlie Evers, those people who stood on the front lines in Mississippi to make sure that a Governor Tate, who is not widening access to better health care, Because guess what? They're just down in the Delta, right? They still treating black and brown people like they are secondary citizens, and yet you're gonna let Brett Favre come in and raid the welfare of millions and not make him pay it back? And your thing is, oh, as a black person, oh, it don't matter. It does matter. I don't know. They sold that to you as soon as you got the right. Well, it don't matter. It don't matter. And now we are rehearsing that same trope that this don't matter, that don't matter. Our voice don't matter. If it doesn't matter, why are you trying to suppress it? Why are you trying to remove it? Since it don't matter, just let everything go. If it doesn't matter, why are you trying to cut out black districts where you know that we have a great swath of this state is black and brown people? Why are you trying to cut out and make it just Republican and red only? They don't represent my interest. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why are you trying to suppress my vote if my vote don't matter? I don't know how. Listen, Culture Call, I don't know how in the wide world we add that 1 + 1 and got 15. I don't know. It's right there. Oh, voting don't matter. And they start that in our community. So we pick it up because, of course, we don't research it. We don't, right? We just going to go with it. Oh, my vote don't matter. But then they're making policies, taking it all the way up to the Supreme Court to ratify districts that don't even represent you. That's why your vote don't matter, because they have gerrymandered districts in the state. So even if you do vote, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, because of how they have cut the districts in favor of them. That's how they maintain power. That's why when you say your vote don't matter, please understand that has been diabolically orchestrated for it not to matter. Doesn't mean your vote don't matter on the face. No, absolutely not. They want to do that so you don't participate, so you don't opt out the system. So that you opt out the system and be like, oh, well, I guess it don't matter if I participate or not. No. You got to start voting for the funding for our schools, for the funding for our organizations. You got to go there so that we can have a representation, so that our voices can be heard. Right? You got to do that. We do not have the luxury of not allowing our voices to be heard. And there is a cynical generation. You remember, I talked to you all about the millennials and how they are the bridges to the future. There are a lot of them that tell me my vote don't matter. You better get up. You better wake up. You better wake up. Wake up, I tell you. Listen, you're listening they're listening to artists and actors and all that kind of stuff who financially and as it relates to, part and parcel of life, they're going to be fine. It's us who down here living in these, who don't live in Beverly Hills and don't have a mansion. It's us that's going to have to deal with that and suffer with that. Since it don't matter. You got to definitely start thinking about, what am I saying? That my foreparents paid for this in blood. It does matter. It does matter. Let me say that again. It does matter. It does matter. And that's important. And if you don't think it does, you're in a precarious position. Because God has given us all of this power, have allowed us to come so very far. And we get into this place to say, well, I guess I'm going to stay home on election day. I guess I'm not going to let my voice be heard. You're going to let them, the little bit that we've been able to acquire, right? The little bit that we have been able to acquire, you're going to let them take that too? Huh? Absolutely not. That's not what we're going to do. Culture Call, we are not going to do that. What we're going to do is put on our big boy pants and our big girl pants, and we're going to get active and start looking at what's happening. There are critical issues in our community, even right now, with violence and all of those different kinds of things. And we got to start having really clear conversations. Yeah. What y'all fighting for? What y'all, this our territory. This our side of town. Really? Really? That's the best you can come up with? That this is your side of town and we bear this on this side of town and we don't do this on this side of town? If you keep, go ahead. In a minute, they're going to take the entire side of town from you. And there's always somebody, oh, that's scare tactics. You're saying what you thought was scare tactics in 2026. You're looking at in the face right now. 2016, you're looking at it in the face right now in 2024. Because everything that they said was going to happen if this person got into office is happening right before your eyes. Yeah. You know, the old folks used to tell me hard head make a soft behind. In other words, you keep doing what you're doing, and something is going to come to spank you and going to make your tail sore, your posterior sore. Right? Well, if we don't pay attention, the belt is winding up again. Because we live in Alabama, but listen, a lot of people are from Missouri, the show me state. Folks like, well, I don't believe that. You're going to have to show me. No, some things, yeah, some things you don't need to be shown like that. No, you do not. No, ma'am. No, sir. Absolutely not. It's something that you need and I need to always consider. If I don't do anything, what's going to happen to me and my family? If I don't do anything, what's going to happen to my community? What's going to happen to our schools? What's going to happen to our teams, our bands? What's going to happen to our clinics? What's going to happen to our organizations, our fraternities, our sororities? Hey, our churches. What's going to happen if we just sit idly by? Yeah, if we sit idly by and do nothing. If I withhold my voice, if I withhold my vote, if I'm not paying attention to exactly what they're doing. Listen, here's what I understand. Black folks don't have the opportunity to sit by and just ask those questions and not think about it. Listen, I'm telling you right now. I am telling you right now, we got to pay attention and we got to do what we got to do. We've got to do that. And if we don't, listen, there's an old gospel song that says, nobody fault but mine. Y'all know that song, Culture Call? Nobody fault but mine. If I die and my soul be lost, it's nobody's fault but mine. Yeah. Exactly. If it goes the wrong way and we don't act now, if we're not paying attention to what's now, if we're not building our communities now, and something happens adversely, not if, when, because the handwriting is already on the wall. When something, it ain't nobody's fault but mine. If I had an opportunity to make a child's life better, yeah, if I have an opportunity to make a child's life better, and I don't do that, if I've got an opportunity to help somebody, yeah, who's suffering with a disease, if I have an opportunity to put the right person in office, I'm telling you, if I had that and I don't do anything, you can fall into the casket, you can fall into the grave if you want to, but what you'll go down or you'll fall in saying that this was my responsibility that I shirked off. Yeah, that's what I did. And that's unfortunate. And that is unfortunate. And we need to understand what is at stake for our communities. We do. We need to understand and ask ourselves, why are we not hearing this in church? Why are we not hearing this in a place that we give so much time to? Why are they not bringing this to light for us? Why are they not having this articulation? Why are we not doing that? You got to start asking questions. That the power structure only remains a power structure when we act like we have no agency, that we have no power. And so, Culture Call, I think the interesting thing today is for us to take consideration, for us to think about what is our own power? What is our own agency? What can I do to make things different? Yes, that's why I had a desire to be on the board of the sickle cell, foundation. I wanted to be on that because my children suffer from that. And so I need to, and not only my children, but I have people who are close to me who have suffered and who still suffer with sickle cell. So I wanted to be on that board to see what's going on, see how we can make a difference. All the things I have to do, a plethora of things, but I wanted to be on that board. I wanted to be on the Child Abuse Prevention Services because I've taught in school and I've seen abused children and I've seen the effect that it has had on our young people. I've seen the scars that they leave, the traumatic scars they leave on adults because nobody came to their rescue. Family didn't believe them. Right? And I think that's important. That is important. If you think it's just going to blow over, if you think it's just going to blow over, and in the end, that Americans are people that can watch tragedy happen and expect a happy ending. I want you to hear what I just said. That Americans, unfortunately, are people that can look at tragedies happening and then hope for a great ending, a happy ending. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. We've got to put our hands to the plow and not turn back. 205-752-4800. You have been listening to L. Spencer Smith right here on the Culture Call. Praise 93.3. We got a little bit more to come. We're getting ready to land this plane for another day. Yeah, but stay right here. We got a little bit more to share with you. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call. That's right. We are here. Still here. Listen, I'm so wrapped up and wound up in our conversation. Sometimes I have to just breathe and just exhale. I have to remember, y'all, I get riled up about this. I really, really do. It really is important to me that we as a community really be active and not just sitting on the side, that there is, again, no Lone Ranger that's going to come for us. That we must begin to be the thinkers and highly intelligent people, innovative people, conscientious people that we have historically been. That is etched in the deep roots in the fabric of our faith and our formation and prayerfully in our future. That sometimes, yes, you do have to watch certain things go on and you can feel like you have no sense of impartation to it, right? I don't have nothing to do with that. I don't need to put my hand in that. I'm just going to seek God. I'm going to pray and Jesus going to work it out if you let him, right? I get it. I mean, I promise you I do understand. But part of my whole being is you got to do something. We got to do something. Just reading articles in the news today, and I'm going to put it down because you know what? If you like me, sometimes you got to just step away from stuff. Yeah, I'm going to put that down. I'm going to find me, maybe some wings or something. I wish I had a piece of good fried fish with the bones in it, like my daddy used to cook it, right? Everybody's filleting everything. No, I want it with the bones so I can crunch and, I just sit and watch TV or something and just walk away from a minute because, all that I've read, everybody's got a perspective, insights and things of that nature. So you have to make sure that you do some self-protection and some self-awareness and understand, hey, when you need to step back. But then there is a cause. There is a call. There is a necessity for us to be active in this season, to know exactly what is going on in our communities among our black people. And on this last day of Black History Month, this leap year, February 29th, I think it is important for us to make assessment, you know, and especially when you see around you, you're like, what is going on? Where are the people's conscience? Where are their minds? You're asking so many questions, and I wish I had the answers, Coach Cole. I wish that I could say, here is what's going on, and here's definitively how to fix it. I wish I had that. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not prophetic or, Nostradamus in that sense. But what I can say is that nothing will change if we sit on the sidelines and expect somebody to, oh man, let me do something for these people. Let me do something great for these folks. Let me think about, these descendants of these people that we enslaved and that we treated so badly. Let's bestow upon them double honor, that which was considered to be less honorable. Let's do that. I wish we had that kind of mechanism where we could see into the future. But what I've come to learn is that the future belongs to me because the future is within me, that my actions create another action, that my responses solicit another response. Yeah. And that the world that I would love to see, I am but one catalytic component to making that world come to pass. Right? And a lot of times, the world ahead of us, culture call, catch this one. The world ahead of us is formed by paying attention to the world behind us. There's a text, I believe I want to say it's in Isaiah, where the prophet is looking for something in the future, and the Spirit of God says, hey, the word you're looking for in the future, the word is really behind you. I've already saw it. I've already said it. I've already spoken it. You've already seen it. Don't ask me what to do because the word, the instructions are behind you. And so that's very important in this season where that we look at Black History Month, because Black history, if we pay attention to it, will give us the resolve, the strategies, the insight to what perhaps some of the things we need be doing right now. And again, that's not casting aspersions upon anyone. That is saying that the need for Black history is still here, that we need to still talk about certain particular things, because if you understand it, that's what they're attacking. They're attacking Black history, and you have to ask why. You have to ask, why are they attacking Black history? They're not attacking Asian history, Hispanic history, European history. They're not attacking that. Why is there seems to be a pervasive attack on Black history? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Black history is the roadmap to moral and ethical human conscience. Black history is American history. Black history shows the resolve of people that they really want to be, that they think they are. And Black history is widely dispersed within that framework of time, those times since we've come to this country, with people who are against all of the odds. All of the odds, y'all. Yeah, that we made it anyhow. That our souls don't have to look back and wonder how we made it over. We don't have to do that anymore. We know, right? And here it is. And our audience of resilience, our audience of rising back up time and time again, resurrections and renaissances of power and agency of worth, our audience has been the hatred and the violence from the institution, from the time it brought us over here to the present moment. They've had to sit and watch us do what? Rise again. And even as we get ready in the month of March to embrace Easter and resurrection. But that's what Black history is. It is the mark of people who you determined were nothing and could be nothing, that came from this fictitious derived land of Nod that you made up in the southern tale, right? From these beasts and these animals, right? That you made up, and you have seen us outlive every lie, every diabolical device, every demonic thing that you've done. You've seen us rise above it, right? You've seen us do, build from the ash heaps of that which, you said you gave us the worst and we built the best. That every form of culture and continuity has come from these Black and brown people on this planet, in this country, really. You've seen it. It's documented. It's documented. No one can stop at a traffic signal and not see Black history. Absolutely. We did that. Yeah, we did that thing. Yeah, Garrett A. Morgan, we did. No one. I mean, and we could go through, dancing, every music, every part of music, even classical, right? Even classical. That a lot of people who their art paints to be Eurocentric are really Black people. Because at that time, before they put all of these frameworks, all of these sociological frameworks, that, race wasn't a thing forever. It was region and ethnicity, but it wasn't race, right? There's always been some caste system, C-A-S-T-E, some caste system. That's the dangerous thing. And that caste system is meted out in race. That's caste system that sought to show supremacy and hierarchy in humanity. That there are some that were privileged and some that are not. There are some that are God-given to be on top, and others that are not by God to be on the not on top, or to be designated to the bottom. It's creating that caste system. I'm reading a book now by Isabella Thompson, talk about caste. That's the title of the book, about caste, and how it's caste that's stronger, that causes race to be an issue. Race is just where the differentiation is made, but the caste system is this notion that there are some people that ought to have access, some people that ought to be better, some people that ought to have the power, some people that ought to have the position, some people that ought to have all the money, and everybody else under them should be subservient to the whims and the ways of those in the caste system. And unfortunately, the caste in this system is race. And so Black people are less than white people and XYZ, right? That's the whole idea. So it's this whole strange caste system that we participate in every day. Our communities are shaped by that. All of that. And if we don't understand, if we don't wake up and understand that what needs to be done is to tear down the idea of the caste. It has to happen on a Sunday morning. It has to happen on a Sunday morning. That's why I appreciate the books by our very own Reverend Dr. Tyshawn Gardner. He was the pastor at Plum Grove Baptist Church, but now he's the professor of pre-ministerial scholars at Sanford Beeson Seminary, right, in Birmingham, right? He just, writing those books about social preaching, social justice preaching, and all those things, his radical nature and the radical mindset, because he's addressing this whole, not just the issue of race, but the issue of caste. Somebody said that these people are better. What you're seeing in Israel right now is not about race. It's not about black and white. It's about caste. It's about a caste system that they say we should have this land and you shouldn't have it. We've been divinely designated to have this. We've been taught, and so we're going to kill everything. We're going to build our houses. Watch this, y'all. On your graves, on the graves of your grandparents, your parents, and watch this, y'all, your children. We're going to build our houses on the graves of your future because we believe that that's how things should be. That's caste. That's a caste system. It's happening right here in America. And again, our caste system is about race. And then when you get into it, it's really about class. How much money you make, who lives in this neighborhood, where you're able to go to school, right? And peradventure, you're able to escape the issue of race, and because you're upper class, then you become an agent of the caste system. Because now you don't like black folks because we doing this and doing that, and that's because you got a little money, and now you got some adjacency in the caste system, but the caste system still doesn't see you as a person of equal value. You fulfill their trope that you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps and now you're doing better than the rest of them. Let us remind ourselves that we are all in the same boat together. There ain't no rich grave, poor graves. The funeral might be different, right, in terms of what's being able to be afforded. But when we get in the ground, all of us get in the ground. When you need a blood transfusion, you don't care if it's from a rich black or a white black or rich white or white or poor white. You just need the blood to match. And that's what God designed. That is what God designed. Listen, I see the runway. We're about to land this plane, but I need you to keep it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on your favorite station, Praise 93.3. We'll be right back. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
Well, we have come to the end of another show. My goodness. And what a powerful, powerful talk it has been today. I talked more to y'all. Y'all didn't talk to me. But nonetheless, I'm glad to have your listening ear. Yeah, I'm glad that you respect me and honor me enough to listen to a little bit this country boy has to say. And I want to make sure and want you to know that every day that I am on the air, I am my whole desire, my purpose is to make you better, is to indeed make you better. And I want you to know that with all of that, we have an assignment in each other's lives to make sure that we are not late, last, or lost. That's why I always ask for you to participate. I ask for you to send me, your comments, because it makes me better, keeps me aware. I want to address the things that's going on in our communities so that, again, that we can be at the forefront of the change and of the future, that we just won't be stuck in a moment while Tuscaloosa and all the state and all the country and all the world is passing us by. And we're just happy doing what we're doing. No. That, yes, the Culture Call is what I said. God has put me uniquely on a watchtower, on a signal post, watching out over the horizon for my community to make sure that whatever is going on, you know about it. It's the sound and the trumpet sound the alarm. Yes, in relationships, in education, in politics, in religion, in finances, whatever we need to know what's going on. I want to be up there seeing it. Watch this. And one of the things that the watchman does is that he blows the trumpet when things are far off. Why? So that the people can prepare. The people in the community, the people in the city can prepare for what's on the way, right? That's the part of the warfare of community, is having people who stand not just as gatekeepers, because by the time it gets to the gate, it's too late, right? They let it in, but yeah, by the time they get to the gate, it's too late. So the gatekeepers depend on those who are in the watchtowers, the watch places, and say, hey, this is coming. The enemy is on his way. Battle down the hatches. Let's everybody get in position. Hey, blessing is on the way. Our future is bright. Everybody gets ready. Prepare now. That is what the Culture Call is designed to do. And that is what I believe in life is my purpose. Yeah. To stand in a place to where I educate myself, I stay to a place because everybody didn't have the privilege to go to schools and still going to school and getting degrees like that God blessed me with. And part of my assignment, part of the blessing and part of the payback, if I can say, to my community, a community that takes care of me and raised me and helped me to become what I am, is to make sure that I am not derelict in my duty to watch out for my community. And I want to thank you guys for listening every day. That's right. Listening to me and Brother Jay. Brother Jay gives you the music. I'm going to give you the talk. And we're going to make sure that our community is where it needs to be every day. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all stay in prayer. Listen, at the end of every phone call, my grandmama and my mama used to say, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. Listen, this has been the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM, hoping and praying that you've had a blessed day and continue to have a blessed day. Love intentionally. Hug somebody. That's right. Send them an encouraging text. Do what you can do to make this world a better place. And we'll catch you tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m., right here on Praise 93.3. Y'all be blessed. Peace.